You've been told that alchemy was a primitive, failed attempt to turn lead into gold, a historical curiosity, a pseudoscience practiced by deluded medieval mystics before real chemistry emerged. But what if this narrative is perhaps the greatest deception ever perpetrated on humanity? What if the true purpose of alchemy was never about creating physical gold, but about something far more profound, a transformation so powerful that its secrets have been deliberately obscured for 2 millennia? In 2018, a collection of ancient manuscripts was discovered in a sealed chamber beneath a monastery in northern Egypt, carbon dated to approximately 2,000 years ago. These texts contain alchemical formulas and processes that have shattered our understanding of what the ancient alchemists were actually pursuing. But here's what's truly shocking. These manuscripts don't just theorize about transformation, they provide precise instructions for achieving it, and the results have been verified by modern scientific instruments. What these ancient alchemists understood, and what modern science is only beginning to rediscover, is that consciousness itself is the most powerful transformative agent in the universe. Not chemicals, not physical processes, but the focused, coherent field of human awareness. They weren't trying to transform lead into gold in a crucible. They were using lead and gold as metaphors for a profound inner transformation that literally alters the vibrational frequency of your entire being. The manuscripts describe a specific alchemical process called the Hermetic Seal, a method of creating what they termed a closed circuit of consciousness that generates a self-sustaining field of transformative energy. Modern researchers who have followed these instructions report experiences that defy conventional explanation: accelerated manifestation, spontaneous healing, and access to information they couldn't possibly know through ordinary means. But here's what the ancient texts reveal that's most surprising. This alchemical process isn't complicated. It doesn't require rare ingredients or elaborate equipment. It requires something far more precious: the ability to maintain a specific state of consciousness with unwavering focus. The ancient alchemists understood that the human mind, when properly aligned, becomes the philosopher's stone, the legendary substance capable of transformation at the most fundamental level. Most people approach manifestation as something they do, a technique, a practice, a method. But the alchemical manuscripts reveal a profound truth. Manifestation isn't something you do, it's something you become. The ancient alchemists weren't performing external processes, they were embodying specific states of consciousness that naturally transmuted their reality from the inside out. Think about this. Have you noticed that sometimes your manifestations seem to happen effortlessly, while at other times no amount of technique or effort produces results? This isn't random. According to the alchemical manuscripts, manifestation occurs naturally and spontaneously when you achieve a specific state they called coherent consciousness, a state where your thoughts, emotions, and physical sensations are perfectly aligned in a single unified field. The manuscripts describe this state as the marriage of sun and moon, the perfect union of your conscious and subconscious mind. When these two aspects of yourself are in perfect harmony, you create what modern quantum physicists might call a coherent field, a unified state where your entire being vibrates at a single powerful frequency. And it's this coherent field that effortlessly attracts and creates your external reality. But here's where most modern manifestation teachings fall short. They focus almost exclusively on the conscious mind, on affirmations, visualizations, and intentional thoughts. The ancient alchemists understood that the subconscious mind, what they called the moon, is equally important in this process. In fact, the manuscripts suggest that the subconscious is actually the more powerful component in the manifestation equation. The forbidden secret these manuscripts reveal is a specific process for bringing the conscious and subconscious minds into perfect alignment, a process they called the Hermetic Seal. This isn't just another visualization technique or affirmation practice, it's a precise method for creating an unbreakable circuit between your conscious intentions and your subconscious creative power. Let me ask you this: have you ever noticed that your most powerful manifestations often occur when you're in a state of complete absorption, when you're so fully engaged in something that you lose track of time and self-awareness? The ancient alchemists called this the unified state, and they developed specific practices to induce it deliberately, rather than waiting for it to occur by chance. One of the most powerful techniques described in the manuscripts is something they called circular breathing, a specific pattern of breath that creates what they termed the perfect circuit. This isn't the circular breathing used by musicians or in certain meditation practices. It's a precise rhythm that creates a particular brainwave state where the conscious and subconscious minds naturally merge. This description aligns remarkably well with what quantum physicists now understand about the nature of reality at the subatomic level, that solid matter is actually mostly empty space, that particles can exist in multiple states simultaneously, and that the act of observation can collapse quantum possibilities into specific outcomes. The ancient alchemists were describing quantum principles 2,000 years before quantum physics existed as a formal discipline. But here's the most forbidden secret the manuscripts reveal. This alchemical transformation isn't just about manifesting external circumstances or material possessions. It's about fundamentally altering your relationship with reality itself. The ancient alchemists weren't trying to get more stuff. They were achieving a state of consciousness where the distinction between observer and observed, between self and world, dissolves completely. They called this the great work, not because it was difficult, although it requires tremendous focus, but because it was the most important transformation a human being could undergo. It's the shift from seeing yourself as a separate entity trying to manipulate reality, to recognizing that you are reality, experiencing itself through your unique perspective. This is why the true alchemical teachings were hidden, encoded, and protected, not because they were dangerous in the sense of being harmful, but because they fundamentally challenged the paradigm of separation that has dominated human consciousness for millennia. They reveal that the apparent solidity and fixity of the material world is actually a fluid, responsive field that shapes itself according to your consciousness. Take a moment right now to feel into this possibility. What if the world around you isn't a fixed, objective reality that you're trying to change through effort and technique? What if it's actually a responsive field that naturally organizes itself around the frequency of your being? How would you approach manifestation differently if you understood that you're not trying to get something from outside yourself, but rather allowing your internal state to be expressed externally? The manuscripts describe this understanding as the philosopher's stone, the legendary substance that transforms lead into gold. But the lead isn't a physical metal, it's the heavy, dense energy of separation consciousness, and the gold isn't a physical element, it's the radiant, coherent energy of unified consciousness. The transformation doesn't happen in a physical crucible, it happens within the vessel of your own being. So how do we apply this forbidden knowledge in practical terms? The manuscripts outline a three-phase process that the ancient alchemists used to achieve this transformation. The first phase they called Nigredo, the blackening. This is the process of becoming fully aware of your current state of consciousness, without judgment or resistance. It's about seeing clearly the ways in which you're operating from separation consciousness, from fear, lack, and the belief in limitation. Most people try to skip this phase, moving directly to positive thinking or visualization. But the alchemists understood that you can't transform what you haven't fully acknowledged. Take a moment to reflect. Where in your life are you still operating from the consciousness of separation? Where are you pushing against reality, trying to force outcomes, or feeling disconnected from the flow of life? This awareness isn't about judgment, it's about honest recognition of your current state. The second phase they called Albedo, the whitening. This is the process of purifying your consciousness, releasing the patterns, beliefs, and emotional charges that keep you locked in separation consciousness. The manuscripts describe specific breathing patterns and focus techniques that facilitate this release. But the essential element isn't the technique itself, it's the willingness to let go of the identity that's built around separation. Ask yourself, what aspects of your identity are built around struggle, around the belief in limitation, around the idea that you're separate from what you desire? What would it feel like to release these aspects, to allow them to dissolve in the alchemical vessel of your awareness? The third phase they called Rubedo, the reddening. This is the emergence of the unified consciousness, the state where observer and observed merge into a single coherent field. The manuscripts describe this as the sacred marriage, the union of opposing forces within your being. It's not something you achieve through effort, it's what naturally emerges when the obstacles to it have been dissolved. Feel into this possibility. What would it be like to experience yourself not as a separate entity trying to manifest what you want, but as the unified field from which all manifestation arises? How would your approach to creation change if you recognize that you are both the creator and the created, both the manifester and the manifested? The manuscripts emphasize that this alchemical process isn't linear, it's cyclical. You move through these phases repeatedly, each cycle taking you deeper into the transformation. And the key to the entire process is what they called the Hermetic Seal, the ability to maintain your consciousness within this cycle without leaking energy into doubt, fear, or the old patterns of separation. This is perhaps the most practical aspect of the forbidden knowledge, the understanding that transformation requires a contained field. Just as a physical transformation requires a sealed vessel to contain the process, consciousness transformation requires a sealed awareness that doesn't dissipate its energy through doubt, distraction, or reverting to old patterns. Ask yourself, where does your transformative energy leak out? Where do you break the hermetic seal through doubt? through inconsistency, through allowing your consciousness to be pulled back into separation. The ancient alchemists understood that maintaining the seal, maintaining focused awareness on the transformation process, is the single most important factor in successful alchemy. The manuscripts contain a specific practice for strengthening this hermetic seal, something they called the circular gaze. This isn't just a visualization, it's a specific way of directing your attention that creates a self-reinforcing field of awareness. They described it as the eye that sees itself seeing, a recursive loop of consciousness that naturally intensifies and stabilizes your state. Try this right now. Become aware not just of what you're perceiving, but of the awareness that's perceiving it. Notice the consciousness that's reading these words. Can you feel the difference between being absorbed in content and being aware of the awareness itself? This subtle shift is the beginning of the circular gaze, the self-reinforcing loop that strengthens the hermetic seal. But the manuscripts contain an even more powerful technique, something they called the alchemical breath. This isn't just a breathing pattern, it's a specific way of using your breath to circulate energy through what they called the three centers, what we might now identify as the gut power center, heart feeling center, and head awareness center. The technique involves breathing in a specific rhythm while directing your attention in a circular pattern through these centers. As you inhale, you bring awareness to the lower center, feeling the raw creative energy that resides there. As you continue to inhale, you draw this energy up to the heart center, where it's infused with the quality of unconditional presence. As you complete the inhale, you draw this energy up to the head center, where it's illuminated by clear awareness. Then as you exhale, you reverse the process, allowing this illuminated energy to flow back down through the heart and into the lower center, completing the circle. This creates what the manuscripts call the perfect circuit, a continuous flow of energy that naturally aligns your entire being in a coherent field. Practice this circular breath for just a few minutes, and you'll begin to feel a noticeable shift in your state, a sense of integration, of wholeness, of being fully present in your body while simultaneously expanded beyond its boundaries. This is the beginning of the alchemical state, the unified consciousness that naturally manifests as if by magic. Before we close, I want to address something important. Why has this knowledge been hidden? Why have these alchemical secrets been encoded, obscured, and kept from the general public for 2,000 years? The manuscripts themselves provide the answer. The great work cannot be forced or imposed. It must be freely chosen, entered into with full awareness. To reveal these mysteries to those who seek power rather than transformation would be to cast pearls before swine. In other words, this knowledge isn't hidden because it's dangerous in itself. It's hidden because its power can only be properly wielded by those who have undergone the inner preparation to use it wisely. The alchemical transformation isn't about gaining power over reality. It's about recognizing your inseparability from it. Without this recognition, the techniques themselves can become just another form of manipulation, another expression of separation consciousness. This is why I'm sharing this knowledge with you now, not as a technique to get what you want, but as an invitation to transform how you relate to reality itself. The true power of alchemy isn't in manipulating external circumstances, it's in transforming your consciousness from the state of separation to the state of unity, and from that transformed state, manifestation happens naturally, effortlessly, as the simple expression of who you've become. So I invite you to experiment with these forbidden secrets, not as techniques to try, but as doorways to explore. Practice the circular breath, engage the circular gaze, move through the three phases of alchemical transformation, but do so not with the goal of getting something, but with the intention of remembering what you already are, the unified field of consciousness from which all creation arises. If this resonates with you, if you feel called to explore these alchemical secrets more deeply, drop the word transform in the comments below. This isn't just for engagement, it's a declaration of your willingness to enter the great work, to step into the alchemical process of consciousness transformation. And if you're new to this channel, subscribe to join a community of modern alchemists who are rediscovering these ancient secrets and applying them in their lives. The forbidden knowledge has been hidden in plain sight for 2,000 years. The time has come to reclaim it, not as historical curiosity, but as a living practice that transforms not just your circumstances, but your very relationship with reality itself. The philosopher's stone isn't something to be created, it's something to be remembered, and that remembering begins now.